CFL Montreal won't play their next game until Saturday, April 1st, when they're going to visit the Whitecaps in Vancouver. But there's always stuff going on. Yesterday, Coach Losada and Mathieu Choinière, members of the media, they had a lot to say. So did Olympic Park. Actually, they didn't have a lot to say. They did issue an apology. We'll get to that in just a second. A defender from a year ago has been brought back. The big question is, why? Another defender has had his contract restructured. We'll talk about him and the progress he's made. All that and much more. I'm Marinaro, the Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk. My buddies Filosa and DeFalco joining me in a second.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. CF Montreal Talk.
Here's the chance. They've got the goal. Absolutely incredible. Cameron Porter delivers the goal to send Montreal Impact into the CONCACAF Champions League semi-final.
The sickest CF Montreal podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Hello, CF Montreal fans and soccer fans around the world. Here we are on CF Montreal Talk. It is the Sick Podcast. I'm Marinaro, Filosa, and DeFalco joining me. Gentlemen, what's going on?
Nothing much,
Tony.
Quiet week.
Yeah,
It's a quiet week. Well, it's a quiet week. Their next game, once again, is Saturday, April 1st, when they're going to visit the Whitecaps in Vancouver. And then after that, the week later, they're going to be at Foxborough, where they're going to visit the New England Revolution. But, of course, practice is going on. This week, they were off for a couple of days, Monday and Tuesday, but they resumed practice yesterday. But before we get to that, Jeremy, I know you weren't happy with Le Parc Olympique, Olympic Park, because of the delays on Saturday night when they had their Olympic Stadium home opener, and some fans actually missed as much as the first half. Gabriel Gervais joined me a couple of days ago right here on the Sick Podcast, and he said it was totally out of their hands. It was in the hands of the Olympic Park. Nevertheless, he wanted to issue an apology on behalf of CF Montreal, being the classy type that he is. But Jeremy, you placed a phone call, you got to the bottom of it, and they've assumed all responsibility.
Yeah, I spoke to the people at the Parc Olympique, and they confirmed that the mistake was theirs. I don't understand, honestly, Tony, after all these years, how you could make such a mistake. They've told us that they underestimated the crowd and the people that they would need to get everybody in at a reasonable amount of time. What's unfortunate is they knew from the beginning of the week that there would be at least 20,000 plus. What we have to understand is that the RIO is no longer used to, or the Parc Olympique, organizing events where there are those types of people. There hasn't been an event with 20,000 plus fans in the stands there since before COVID. So all these employees that they're hiring now, security people, they're all young, inexperienced. The debacle is theirs. They had issues with the parking. They also had issues with the Pierre de Coubertin Street, which is an absolute disaster, and it's been 3 years like that. So, all the blame to the people of the Parc Olympique. This has nothing to do with the impact. So it's unfortunate for everyone.
But guys, did you saw a press conference from Le Parc Olympique saying, guys, it's on us. It's our fault. There's a discount for the next game. I haven't seen nothing about this. And then telling you, Metallica is coming to Montreal this summer, and it won't be the same crowd as CF Montreal last Saturday. If this happens again, we might see the rendezvous from 92 when Guns N' Roses and Metallica came over, and we all know what happened. So, guys, thank God we don't have the World Cup here in Montreal. We look bad for 20,000 people. It was a disaster, and I talked yesterday to some CF Montreal members, and they were not happy about it. The Stade Olympique was dirty, and we know that CF Montreal, they spent some money to rent the Stade Olympique, so they were not satisfied. There was a catastrophe from A to Z, guys.
I think you raise a good point there, if I can, Jeremy, because Gavino's right. They can come out and they can say, you know what, Jeremy, it's on us. We made a mistake. We apologize. That's fine. So what happens to the fan who paid the money that he paid, showed up to the stadium 2 hours before, did everything that he had to do, but ended up getting in late, or an hour before and ends up getting in late, and ends up missing the first goal, ends up missing the first 30 minutes of action. Nothing. There's no refund. It's very, very unfortunate. But here's an idea coming from a guy in Ville LaSalle out of his basement with black curly hair and bluish green eyes that change color depending on what kind of shirt he's wearing. That would be me, okay? You ready for this idea? Don't open the doors 90 minutes before. Open them 2.5 hours before.
Yeah.
What's the problem?
Yeah, and encourage people to come early. Obviously, there were parking lots that were not being used. Also, another issue, and this, I got to underline this, okay? This police that stand at the parking lot and directing people in only one direction. Can someone from the SPVM please explain to me what the heck it is that you guys are doing there? Because I ask police officers outside the stadium when I go, why are you guys directing people in one direction instead of two, where it would free up, the exiting, would make it so much easier? Nobody's able to answer my question. I don't understand what the heck it is that they're doing there, and it gets people extremely frustrated because it takes a lot of time getting out of the stadium. Another thing is, as you mentioned, if I don't call the Parc Olympique at the beginning of the week and say, hey, what the heck happened? We need an explanation here. Nothing happens. There's no press release. There's no, you understand what I'm saying? They apologized through me, and I wrote an article, but otherwise.
Well, Jeremy, so I'm glad you said this, because I'm going to say it, and I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. Jeremy, some may not think so, but you are a gift to CF Montreal. You really are a gift. And I'm serious when I say this.
Joey doesn't share your opinion.
Well, it's my opinion. So you are a gift to CF Montreal because you probably write about them about 200 times a year. And some may think that probably 20%, 10% of your articles are negative. Maybe they are. Maybe the reality is negative. So perception is everything. But CF Montreal, I'm sure, would love as many people as possible to know that Saturday night's delays were not on them, because if they were on them, they're going to be getting all those phone calls and all those emails from everyone demanding a refund. Okay.
They did get a lot of phone calls and emails. So it's important to clarify things.
So I'm sure they would love the message to be out that this was not on them. It was on Olympic Park. And if Jeremy Filosa doesn't pick up the phone to do the work, to do the phone calls, to get in touch with the right people, to get it out of Olympic Park that it was the fault of Olympic Park and only Olympic Park, and then Jeremy Filosa writes an article on it on 98.5 FM, and then Jeremy Filosa talks about it on his podcast on EMFC Radio, and then we talk about it here on the Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk. If Filosa doesn't do it, this message doesn't come out. So I repeat, in the good and in the bad, I believe you are a gift to CF Montreal in terms of media coverage. So good for you. Now, we got that out of the way.
Yep.
Since we're pumping your tires here, Jeremy, I'm going to pump them again. You made everyone aware that, hey, I think there's an opening here for CF Montreal and defender Gabriele Corbo. And probably about an hour after you came out with that, it was announced that CF Montreal and Gabriele Corbo came to an agreement, a 2-year deal plus an option. Your thoughts on the player and your thoughts on bringing him back at this time? I'll start with Gavino.
Guys, yesterday we saw Gabriele Corbo at practice. He looked fresh. Well, he knows the system. He knows the players. He knows the environment. He knows the city. So I'm happy for him. He's only 23 years old. Montreal's playing.
Gavino, of course he looks fresh. He came from Italy. That beautiful clean air, that mountain air, or whether it's that oceanside air, that pasta that has absolutely no preservatives, the water that makes great espresso.
I don't know about the clean, fresh air. He's from Naples, huh? Just to tell you.
All right. Okay. Corbo, Montreal's going to play in the MLS, Leagues Cup, Canadians Championship, maybe MLS playoffs. So I think he's going to have his share of his minutes. But at the same time, if Corbo becomes, let's say, the best defender next year or in 2 years in the MLS, what's going to happen is Bologna is going to bring him back to Bologna for free, or Montreal will be able to sell him whatever in the world and keep the money. I don't know about that, but I'm happy for the signing. But that means something that's going to happen, guys. I'm not so sure that Kamal Miller is going to finish the season here in Montreal.
Yeah, for
Jeremy?
sure. Listen, I think they're trying to back themselves up. You know, we don't know what's going to happen with Kamal Miller. We'll talk about Joel Waterman in just a few minutes. First off, very happy to have Corbo back. The guy's a class act. Gavino and myself had a chance to do a in-depth interview with him last year in Italian. Honestly, he was extremely generous with his time. I really liked what he did on the field last year. He was a sort of an unsung hero because he didn't really play much. My sources in Italy kept telling me it's not over. They're still talking. They're still talking. They're still talking. I didn't expect it to go all the way till mid-March, to tell you the truth. I thought it was going to get resolved way before, but just happy to have the guy back. And as Gavino mentioned, don't forget, you're going to have MLS games. You're going to have Canadian Championship. Don't forget the Gold Cup is coming in June. Some players are going to leave. You're going to have Leagues Cup after that. After that, you might have playoffs.
Yeah.
Listen, you're going to need everybody. And right now, I think they're solidifying their defense. They want to make sure that they can continue playing with this 3 central defender type of defense. They want to have the depth to do it. And I have no issues with this guy coming back.
And he doesn't cost a lot of money, guys. Only $130,000 last year.
Yeah, look, guys, I believe Corbo was in the plans to begin with, but I think everything accelerated the fact that they are playing with 3 center backs, like you said, Jeremy. And, you know, for like a game and a half, they had to put Samuel Piet at center back. For a while, a game and a half or whatever it was, they had to put Herrera at center back. They started to get into some injury problems. It affects your depth, and I think, you know, it's a little bit of everything. I think A, they were always interested in Corbo. B, they saw that they had injury problems. C, they realized you can never have enough depth. And D, I think Gavino is right. Kamal Miller wanted to be transferred to play overseas, guys. All right. His agent tried to find a team for him and a fit. And I can tell you that based on what I've heard, other agents were mandated as well to try and find a team for him and a fit. And unfortunately, it didn't materialize. And what we need to understand is the reason why, you know, Kone was sold or you know, and wanted to leave, obviously, besides the fact that he's good enough and he has a lot of talent. And Alistair Johnston would be a better example that he wanted to leave the MLS in which he was comfortable to go play for Celtic. And Kamal Miller wants to do the same, is based on what Canada Soccer's philosophy is right now and based on what the top 3 leagues are in the world. And they basically have a pyramid, guys, of Category 1, Category 2, Category 3, Category 4, Category 5 in terms of competition that they view as the best competition in the best leagues. And if you want to be on the Canadians men's national team as a starter in 2026, you're going to have to be playing in Europe. I'm not saying that no player playing in the MLS will be on that team, but I will tell you that no starting player will be in the MLS.
Well,
the
US had 1 player in the MLS in this last World Cup.
Guys, what's the value for Kamal Miller overseas? Maybe $3-4 million? Are you gonna reinvest in the players on the pitch for 2023? Guys, it's a serious question because if you trade Kamal Miller in the MLS, I'm sorry, you don't want some money in return. You want a valuable player that's going to help you in the center of the pitch this season. I'm sorry, guys, but you don't want to make a trade $1 million for Miller.
Gavino, that's not going to happen because everyone knows it's Kamal Miller's intention going forward to play somewhere in Europe. So another team in the MLS is not going to acquire him. And CF Montreal, to their credit, is not going to hold on to a player. If there's a fit and he can go somewhere, you're not going to hold on to a player against their wishes of wanting to leave. We've seen that before. This is the way soccer works worldwide. When a player wants to move on, if there's an opportunity, the clubs end up moving the player because they don't want to keep the player against his wishes.
Guys, don't forget that Camacho's in the last year of his contract. People are telling me also, finally we've acquired a player without using allocation money. That's not necessarily true because if you want to acquire a player internationally, like this is the case, you're acquiring him from Bologna, you are allowed to take the GAM money, ask the MLS to transfer it in cash, and you can use that cash to buy a player. So I don't know how much Corbo cost from Bologna, but once again, most probably, and I don't know this 100%, but 99%, They used GAM money, turned it into cash, and gave it to Bologna.
But what would be a good offer for Kamal Miller? I repeat myself, guys. If there's a team out there overseas that is willing to pay $4 million right now, is Miller gone? I'm asking the question.
Of course.
I think so.
Of course.
I think so.
All right.
Of course.
Yeah.
So less than that, you don't make the trade. So less than that, you don't make the trade.
No, I mean,
hold on a second. It's once again, yes, they can hold off. CF Montreal can hold off if they're not getting an amount that they believe is an amount that they want. But once again, the players' wishes have a lot to do with this. Now, yes, in order for it to work in soccer and professional sports, it's business. It has to make sense for both parties, or three parties in this case. The player, one team on the other side, and the existing team. So, but I would be willing to, I'd say that even if they got an offer of less than $4 million, that they would move him.
Yeah, if it makes sense for everybody, they will probably move him, especially if Kamal is not happy here and wants to move on. The other move they just made is, extending Joel Waterman. There's a little thing that people might not have noticed, but they restructured his contract for this year. So that means he's getting a bump right now in 2023. So this shows that the team is not closed to the idea of bumping players who already have existing contracts. We can go back to the Kai Kamara story, but we're not going to, but you understand where I'm going there. So a bump for this year for Joel. He has a guaranteed contract for next year. And after that, options. I think this is probably what Joel wanted, meaning a contract extension that guarantees him a pay increase, but not too long, so that if at the end of next year, for example, he's ready to go, then there's a possibility for him to do it.
I remember in January when we asked Kamal Miller, are you surprised that you're still here in Montreal? Well, he answered, well, I'm here for now. So that says a lot.
And you know what? Kamal hasn't come out to speak to the media very often this year, and I suspect, and this is just my instinct of a 24-year journalism career, that he doesn't want to talk to us because there's something there's something brewing.
All right, okay. On to Joel Waterman, or picking up on Joel Waterman. Guys, he deserves it. He's a real good professional. He's really impressed me. And the reason why I say that, take a look at players who started off in the CPL and were able to make the jump to the MLS. Guys, there's not many of them. Okay?
No, but they did it right, Tony.
Yes.
They took their time with him.
Correct. And players that not only went from the CPL, but to MLS and stuck 3-4 years later, that doesn't happen very often either. So in picking up on what you just said, Jeremy, yes, they acquired him. He was on the bench. Mm-hmm. He learned a lot. He learned from players around him. He learned in practice. He learned from the coaching staff. Then slowly but surely, he got a couple minutes. He started to go through some growing pains. Then at one point, he started to get a little bit more comfortable. They upped the minutes. Then he got more minutes. Then he got more responsibility. And now he's a player that if you put in the lineup to start a game, you're comfortable. He's arrived.
If you've talked to Joel Waterman and Laurent Simon recently, you will know that those two guys did not see things eye to eye at first. Joel Waterman really thought that Laurent Simon was a pain in the ass for picking at things and saying, you need to work on this, you need to concentrate on that. And at the end of the day, the two members right now, I think, are really satisfied with the end product. I gotta raise my hand and tip my cap to Laurent Simon because he's doing a really good job with these defenders coming in, these young guys. And I will tell you one thing, if you talk to Joel Waterman right now, he'll have a completely different story, and he'll tell you, you know what? Thank God for this guy. Thank God he was there. Thank God he kept busting my balls about certain things, and now I'm an improved player, so hats off to everybody.
He had his break in 2021 because Kiki Struna couldn't travel. He was not vaccinated, so he took his chance. And since then, he's a lot reliable to CF Montreal. He's a good defender, good MLS defender. He went to the World Cup while he didn't play, but at least he was around everybody and all those superstars. He's 27 right now. He's no longer a rookie. And as we saw last Saturday, he was a leader out there who was very vocal around his teammates and everything. So it's a good signing for Joel Waterman.
Yeah, he had a nice pass in the game, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice cross. We haven't even talked about
and,
that.
He's the one who attracts the defender, who ends up putting the two Montreal players on side on that tying goal.
The ball in the box for Choinière, who heads it, and ultimately the rebound is headed home by Chinoso Ofer. All right, okay, guys. Saturday, April 1st, CF Montreal is in Vancouver, and then after that, the week after, they are in New England versus the Revolution. Both games are going to be on the synthetic grass, which, Montreal is not going to shy away from, guys, because they practice at Olympic Stadium on the synthetic. Yeah. And actually, their only win of the season came on the synthetic at Olympic Stadium. So I don't think there's going to be a problem in that regard.
But, guys, at least the players are coming from the disabled list. Yesterday at practice, we saw Quizera come back. Campbell come back, Herrera come back. They didn't practice with the group, but at least they're on the pitch. Samuel Piette looked very fresh out there, so there was only two players that were out of practice. Lassi Lapalainen and Kamal Miller will have more updates next week, but it looks good for now for next game.
Oh, speaking of which, on Lapalainen, Losada yesterday spoke with members of the media, and Lapalainen's name came up in terms of the good performance that he had playing right wing back with his natural right foot instead of playing left wing back. And guys, all of a sudden, if Lapalainen now is playing really well there, you have a right wing back Lapalainen, a right wing back Herrera, a right wing back Zachary Brault-Guillard, and a left wing back, you have Quizera.
Yeah, this is going to be a problem, guys. This is going to be a puzzle for Hernan Lozada because you know what? They set up this lineup so that you would have Lapalainen on the left and Quizera on the left, and you'd have Herrera and Zach Brault-Guillard. Now, Quizera is not ready to play in this moment. We saw that Lapalainen, with all he brings, with his volume of play, this cardio, going up and down the field, but now also playing on his more comfortable side, and what a difference it made. I actually saw Lassi Lapalainen lifting his head and having the confidence to look at where his teammates were before making a pass, which he doesn't have that confidence and capability on the left-hand side because just keeping the ball on his left foot is complicated for him. And now Lozada says, you know what? I'm not closed at the idea of leaving Demare on the right side. But what are you going to do with the left? That means, we obviously saw that Choinière can definitely contribute from the left side of the park. So it's going to be a puzzle for the coach.
Guys, I think the places are going to be switched between Choinière and Lapalainen. That means that Lapalainen is going to become the joker and Choinière is going to be the left back day in, day out, week in, week out. You cannot say he's phenomenal and bring back to the bench. It doesn't make sense. You don't want to play with his confidence, with his mind and everything. And you paid a lot of money to acquire Aaron Herrera. So I think Herrera is going to be on the right side, Choinière on the left side, and Lassi is going to become a joker de luxe.
Yeah, look, I still think Choinière's best position would be either a 6 or an 8, maybe more an 8.
The coach said that yesterday, exactly that.
Yeah, but seeing as he is a Swiss Army knife and he can play several positions, he's going to be asked, and he'll play wherever the coach wants him to play, and he'll play well wherever the coach wants him to play. Now, I had said a couple of weeks ago that I thought Choinière was actually a better player more on the defensive side than he was on the offensive side. But then how does he respond? He's basically an architect on all 3 goals. So good for him. Hats off, as they say, chapeau. Guys, in ending, CF Montreal has sent out a survey. Jeremy?
Yeah. So they've sent out a survey to a lot of the fans that have purchased tickets over the last couple of years by email. If you haven't received it, just let me know on Twitter, and I will send you the link, okay? And it's important for people to fill these surveys out so the team knows what you like and what you don't like and what would encourage you from going more often to Stade Saputo. When you get to the question about, where do you get your information? Where do you follow CF Montreal? It would be important to mention when you go to other, there's a little paragraph there that you can fill out. It would be important to mention where you get your information. And if you get some or all of your information from this podcast, please mention it. I think it's important for the team to know that more and more these independent podcasts are becoming the place to be to follow your team. So it's important for us. So take
and
the
you
time.
guys, and you guys, if I can, you can also be heard with a French language podcast on AMFC Radio. And if you get it off of AMFC Radio, write IMFC Radio. And hopefully you get it off of both. So you can write IMFC Radio and The Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk.
Yeah,
so
of course.
that's our way too of getting some pretty good feedback. So thank you very much, everyone. Guys, we'll be back on Sunday probably to do this again. And then we usually upload every Sunday or every Thursday, or at least that's the objective now going forward with all three of us. And if all goes well, an interview every now and then on Tuesdays, which I did a couple of days ago with CF Montreal President Gabriel Gervais. You can see it all on YouTube at the Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk. Subscribe. It's absolutely for free. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, we have daily updates on what's going on, daily news with CF Montreal. And you can follow us at Twitter at SickPod, CFMTL. See you guys. The Three Musketeers.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.